I really think it's important to enjoy the journey. It sounds so cliche, but it's so true. Because if you're not enjoying the journey of it, how the heck do you think you're going to enjoy it when it's every day for as long as you want to stick with it for, hopefully years, once you're doing it for your job professionally. So
Hey nerds, Monica here. Welcome to the Data Podcast for Nerds, where we get to talk to amazing professionals and ask them all about how they're using data to solve the world's problems. We're highlighting skills that data professionals use on a daily basis. Plus, we always include some fun bits because we're all nerds here and we love to have fun. So thank you for tuning in, and if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. And as always, folks, happy learning. Today with us, we have Eric Sims, aka Super Eric. How are you doing today?
dandy, nerdy as always.
Amazing. Glad to hear it. We start off our episodes by understanding people's origin stories. So, if you could please tell us about your background and how you got to where you are today in your career.
Sure. I have a somewhat long and winding background, so I'll try and make it interesting though. So let's see here. I have worked in a wide range of things, like before I knew data was a thing. So I worked in academia and local government. I was a restaurant health inspector, manufacturing, shipping, process improvement, lots of different stuff. And kind of one of the consistent threads that I noticed over time and kind of started to be a niche that I carved out for myself was I would find data or data would find me in whatever role. And so it was always kind of this thing that sat in the corner of my job responsibilities rather than being like front and center. But that was nice because it was a low pressure way to gain some experience. And I did in a lot of different ways. And then once upon a time, I was having an I was working in sales and marketing. Forgot to mention that. I was working in sales and marketing for a consulting firm, and I was having an informal job interview conversation with somebody and about this marketing role. And we both found really quickly that it wasn't going to be a good fit. No problem. But for some reason, this guy, who was a really nice stranger, says, "So what else do you like?" And I'm going off about data, this and that, and metrics and yada, yada. And he's like, you know, that's a thing. Like, you could do like marketing ops or sales ops. Like data with marketing is a job in and of itself. And that was just like a light bulb moment, a huge turning point for me in my career trajectory, or opportunity, I guess, is for a turning point. And so I thought, oh, I'm going to learn more about it. And so I did. I started learning a little bit more about data science and analytics in general, and understanding or starting to see how the work that I had done could kind of all come together into a story that I could share about myself. And even though I had been a restaurant inspector, I had done a data project while I was there. Even though I spent most of my time on sales calls, I had done an important data pipeline project while I was there, etc. And so eventually, this is not about career, but this is about schooling. I got an undergraduate in biology and a master's degree in language teaching, neither of which have anything to do with analytics. That's okay. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. At least I thought I did, and then I didn't end up doing those things, which is fine. And I was resistant. I did not want to go back to school because I thought I have several years of work experience. I have good skills. I like teaching myself stuff, and I was doing, teaching myself pandas and doing projects on the weekends and stuff because I love side projects. But my one criteria, if I did go back to school, whether that be like a university or a boot camp or anything, was you have got to be able to show me a good placement rate after the program, because I do not want to be unemployed with a certificate in my hand. Because what was I going to do? How would I get break in without that? And so my wife ended up actually finding the master's program that I went to at North Carolina State. And the people who run the program are huge data nerds. And so they publish a gory amount of statistics about the program every year, like these are the employers, these are the salaries based on like gender, number of years of work experience, if you're a citizen or if you're an international student, all their placement rates and salaries, and boy, you could go crazy with it. It was awesome. And so I was like, all right, I'll apply for it, and I ended up getting in. So I went into that, and then after the program, through the program network, I ended up getting a job with LendingTree as a data analyst for their small business vertical, which I really enjoyed. And I wanted to do more building rather than analytics. And so I wanted to move into more of like a data scientist role for the next phase of my career. And so that's where I am now. I work at NRG in the innovation analytics part, which is related to like NRG consumers, so the home side of electricity essentially. And the latest part of my job, I work with things like recognizing who has an EV, when are they charging it, how could we help them charge it at a better time, how do we optimally charge people's solar or use people's solar panels to charge their home batteries. A lot of stuff that I think is pretty cool.
That is really cool. I used to work at an electricity company as well, the
Oh yeah,
local one in Phoenix. Yeah, there's some really fun projects you can do with electricity.
yeah. I spent the first year building out our cross serve like architecture and products, and I really like that because I like recommenders in general. But I made a lot of good progress on that, and then this opportunity on another part of my same team came open, and I thought, yeah, I'm just going to make the leap because I want to keep learning and exploring.
That's amazing. Okay, so I have to ask because I'm very intrigued by this. What data projects did you work on while you were a restaurant inspector?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was, oh man, I was like so pumped about this project. So I really love like Lean and Six Sigma. And that was before I realized that it was data. Just that you collected data to do statistical process control and stuff like that. And I'm not entirely sure I did it correctly, but darn it all, I tried hard. And it didn't do any harm if I was wrong. So as a restaurant inspector, I was assigned like a certain, say, zip code, certain geographic area that was not necessarily close to where our office was, and remote was not a thing. And so I would print out this list. I would do, I don't know, anywhere from I think maybe 2,500 to 3,000 inspections a year, a lot of inspections. And everybody, there are different restaurants have different frequencies at which they need to be inspected based on the complexity of the operation. And so they are all coming due at different times across a different geographic area. And so I thought, I'm going to make a little route optimizer type thing. And this was in the Salt Lake City area. Salt Lake City is awesome for route optimization because everything is a grid and it just counts up and down in squares. And so I made this thing that, and this was all done in Excel with VBA in the background because I didn't know how to code at all. So I was like recording macros and going in and like hand editing chunks of code to where I could say, I'm going to pick this north, south, east, west coordinate. And then within a 4 block radius, I want you to bring up the restaurants that are either due, overdue, or will be due in 2 weeks within 14 days. And that way I could go there and I could just knock them all out efficiently instead of driving all over the place and wasting a bunch of taxpayer money on gas because I was a taxpayer too. I wanted to be a good steward of those funds, dang it. And so, yeah, I had this tool that I made that was so much fun. I just had such a great time doing all that and seeing the I guess so that's kind of like the data processing and product side of it. But then I also ran like this stats calculation because somebody else proposed this new system to say, well, you'll just get a random 3 inspections to do every day, even though you can do more than 3 inspections. You'll get random 3 inspections anywhere in the valley, and you may have to drive all over the place. And so I said, all right, well, I'm going to use these addresses and calculate the distance per day and see if my system is statistically more efficient than this other proposed system. And I remember like the moment that my number came through that it was statistically better, I was just like, I just wanted to burst. I was just like fist pumping in my cubicle like a champion. Oh, I was so excited. Um, yeah, so that's what I did.
That's awesome. Did you replace that other system?
Fortunately they never implemented that one.
Okay.
They still had the geographic system, and I was just kind of rolling it out to a few of my colleagues. We had really spineless management, which is
Mm.
unfortunate, because the management wouldn't say, we are going to change this and this is what we're going to do and it's going to make us better and we're going to hold you accountable. And so really I was just looking for people who were early adopters who wanted to do their job better.
Hmm.
And so, I was working with them to implement it in their areas because I didn't have the tools that I needed, the scalable tools that I needed to make it so I could just programmatically change street names to numbers and things like that. And that's one of the big reasons I wanted to go back to school, was because I had the knowledge and tools I needed to do things manually and small, but I wanted to be able to do things that were bigger and more impactful.
That's awesome. I think
Yeah.
that's like the most reason why I hear people wanting to get into data is to just work on projects that are more meaningful and impactful. So that's cool that you like saw that light and was like, I want to go for that and learn more about it.
Yeah, definitely. Like, because the other thing is, like, they don't have to be big projects. Like, that was not a big project. Nobody at their retirement speech is going to be like, oh man, I remember that Eric guy coming up with this thing, like, changed our work forever or anything. But it really made a big impact for me, in my own work and for, a couple of my colleagues as I was rolling it out to them too. Um, Similarly, like, when I was at this scientific consulting firm doing their sales and marketing, I was like employee number like 24 or something like that, or there were 24 of us when I got there. So it was a small company. But I was half of the sales team and all of the marketing team. And we were inundated and we were doing all of our sales stuff. Like when I got there, my manager was literally scheduling every single sales call via email and like manually plunking out, here, let me send you some times and you send them back to me. It was awful. And I was like, there is no way that I will stay here with this job. I will lose my mind or just quit. And so I used Zapier. Have you ever used Zapier?
I have not used it. I've heard of it though.
Zapier makes you happier. I
Okay.
love Zapier. So Zapier is basically an API for APIs, and so you don't really need to know code, and because I didn't, and I use that to, along with a few other tools like scheduling and things like that, to automate like 92 to 95% of that pipeline of our whole sales pipeline, and that made a huge difference for the two of us. It saved us hundreds of hours a year of work with like data entry and scheduling, and just allowed us to focus on the value added thing that we needed to do as humans. And so I think that's the thing when it comes to like job automation and AI and the future and blah blah blah, is like, I'm good with it as long as it lets me do what I can do that it can't do. Bring it on.
Absolutely. And you made a really good point in that, like, to work on something meaningful and impactful doesn't mean that it needs to be a huge project. It could be something small that impacts you and your small team, and that could be worth way more than a huge project.
Yeah, definitely. And there are a lot more little projects out there than there are huge projects. And the chances
Hmm.
of you having a huge impact on a huge project are very small. Like most of us are little cogs in big machines or little cogs in little machines because we're all pretty small. And so that's okay. Like finding little projects to make some kind of an impact and then being able to sell it, like either to the boss or whatever who needs to approve it, or to sell yourself later instead of selling yourself short. I think is really, really important to like sit back and think about, what impact did this have? Can I put a number to it? Can I estimate a number in case it happened a couple years ago and I can't go back and count things anymore or whatever? I think is really important in being able to tell that story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I want to officially transition into our fun bits section.
Great.
Hey, nerd, are you looking for a career in data? I would absolutely love to help you out. I just launched a data career strategy program that helps folks break into data without breaking anything. I provided a link in the show notes if you want to learn more information about it. Now, back to the fun bits.
Specifically, I want to talk about stargazing. So you really like to go and visit all of these different observatories and stargaze. Can you tell us about that and potentially maybe if there's any data overlap there?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so about a year and maybe almost year and a half ago, um, we met a neighbor of ours, my wife and I. Okay, let me back up just a little bit. A little less than 2 years ago, we moved to a new town. We moved to a small town in the middle of nowhere, Kanab, Utah, which is gorgeous. Come visit. And we really want to get involved in the community. Like, that's really important to me. And so we were looking for ways to get involved. And we volunteered with a few different organizations, the Friends of the Library. We were on their board, and we volunteered at the thrift store sorting things that were donated, all sorts of stuff. And then my wife found this nonprofit that she was interested in. And turns out the guy who was the president just lives up the street from us. And so called him up, and he's like, yeah, we do this, blah, blah, blah. We had breakfast, and it was a nice chat. And then he said, I also have this other nonprofit called Stellar Vista Observatory. Would that be something that you'd be interested in? And I was like, yeah, this other nonprofit sounds okay, but the observatory nonprofit, that sounds more up my alley. Let's talk about that. And he was very inviting, just said, yeah, come on out, teach you how to use a telescope, help you find some things in the sky. I didn't know constellations. Like, I knew two or three, the same ones that everybody can recognize: Orion's Belt, Big Dipper, that's about it. And there was opportunity to just jump in and use the marketing skills and design stuff that I've used in the past. And the guy who's the president is 70 something years old, so he's more tech savvy, I think, than the average 70-year-old, but not a lot more. And so there was good opportunity for me to jump in and make a contribution with that. My wife has her MBA, so she's now the treasurer of the board. And so I do like all of our public, well, not all of it, but most of our public outreach stuff. I do a lot of activities, writing grants for fun stuff, and doing star parties. I do a ton of star parties. So we take people out to, 10 minutes south of town, out to the reservoir where it's nice and dark, get out the telescope and laser pointer, and we're looking at all sorts of things: constellations, double stars, galaxies, all that. So that's kind of how it came about. And it's basically just been like an all I care to eat of like stuff to do. There's more than I could possibly do. And so that's been fun. And we're working on trying to find other people who want to be involved always. Nonprofits are always looking for people who want to catch the vision and get involved. And then as far as like data and stuff goes, I have learned over the past year, there is an absolute slew of space data that is openly and freely available. It's things that range from like the rotation of like neutron stars out in space, how fast they rotate so you can count those pulses, to things like sunspots and predicting whether a sunspot is going to appear, which is really interesting right now because the sun is approaching solar maximum. And so there's a lot of activity right now and probably for about the next year around the sun. So that's kind of cool. The other thing that I do a lot with that is I'm not doing anything with like machine learning or anything because we're a small organization. But I do a lot with like ChatGPT. Like, I use generative AI to help me write stuff faster. I needed to write a letter to one of our senators, or I needed to answer some questions up to 2,000 characters or whatever for a couple of grant proposals. And it's so nice to not have to start from zero because I only have so much time and I want to have as much impact and stuff as I can. And so it's really nice to have those tools to help me work more efficiently. And we have a really good hit rate on our grants, like really good like funding rate on the grant proposals that we submit, because I mean we submit to grants where we can actually get. So that just tells you also like ChatGPT is not complete garbage, right? It's useful.
It is useful. It is. What other things do you use ChatGPT for? Do you have any other projects that you've used it?
Side projects. Oh, I love side projects. Yeah, for sure. Uh, so let's see here. The most recent side project I completed was a ukulele tuner for my niece. Because when I go over there, anytime she has her ukulele out, she's like, "Can you help me tune this?" I'm like, "I got this." Like, I'm happy to help her, but I'm not always there, right? So I
Okay.
made her a little website that's a ukulele tuner that she can just pull up on her iPad and open up, use the microphone. So that's one. I made a little web page recently that converts any text, including hyperlinks, to Markdown, because we were moving some stuff from OneNote over to Stack Overflow here at work. So that was a fun little project. I went from idea to functional prototype in 20 minutes.
Oh, nice.
So big fan. DeskFit is a little app I made that counts how many times you raise and lower your hands using PoseNet pose estimation. So it's basically just counting the number of times that your elbow goes above your shoulder and then comes back
Okay.
down. Because and then Sleepy Stack is a little app that I made that will block Stack Overflow after a certain time of night. If I have too many Stack Overflow tabs open, uh, important things. We're solving big problems here.
Exactly.
So yeah, I love it because and I'm working on one right now that will use. I want to be able to use like a small device, not a computer with significant processing power, but a small device to deploy, like mobile ImageNet or MobileNet, whatever it's called, through TensorFlow Lite, so that I can detect cats on my friend's lawn because he has a neighbor who has cats that come over and poop on his lawn, and the neighbor is fine with that, and he doesn't want that. And so I want to be able to detect the cats and just have like a little rainbird sprinkler that'll come on. Not gonna hurt them, but just deter them, just like condition them that when they come over here they get wet. So go elsewhere. So
That
I'm
one's
working on that
really
right now.
interesting. I bought one of those, but it was just like regular motion detecting. So yours
Yeah,
specifically calls out cats?
that's what I just started working on it, but that's what
Okay.
I'm doing. I only want to look for cats because, his kids might play on his grass and they don't need to get sprayed.
Yes.
Like, it's okay for them to be there. Anybody might be crossing that lawn and it's fine as long as they're not pooping on it. If they start pooping on it, I'm going to change the model.
Okay, so once you get out this MVP, right, and you can detect the cats, then you need to up it and figure out if the cats are actively pooping. And then, because maybe
Because, like,
they're just roaming around the yard and being innocent.
maybe, yeah. Maybe there's like some facial recognition that we can use. Like, that cat's got to go.
That would be hilarious. So, while you're working on all of these different side projects, I ask everyone this question. How do you go about when you are trying to learn new things? And in your case, you use ChatGPT a lot, but
Mhm.
aside from that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, YouTube is one of my biggest learning sources because and Perplexity. Have you ever used Perplexity?
No.
Okay, so Perplexity AI, gotta have AI. So Perplexity AI is an app. It also has a website. It's kind of like ChatGPT in that it's very conversational, but it's also like Google in that it cites its sources. It's not perfect. It still hallucinates and then cites its source. Um,
Hmm.
to a real source, but the thing was not in that source. But
Hmm.
anyway, you go to Perplexity, and I say something like, actually, just let me look up a recent chat that I sent to Perplexity. This is where I learn a lot of like just a wide range of things, not necessarily like code. Okay, so like for example, why do I see blue and green aurora when like aurora borealis was big a few weeks ago, but my camera sees magenta like really well, and I don't see it. Like why is that? And so it gives me this explanation about cones, rods, and cones in your eyes. Or I was wondering if alcohol is metabolized into sugar, because somebody was talking about beer bellies, and I was like, why do people tend to have a beer belly? Like, is it like? So I was asking questions like that, and then the cool thing is also when you ask it a question, it will give you this answer, and then at the bottom it will pull up like potential follow-up questions. I was asking about if I
Okay.
could leave my garden shade cloth on all day and night, and follow-up questions are things like, what are the best colors for shade cloth, or can it help with, how can it help with or can it help with pest control, or how does it affect plant growth, things I might ask about. And so it just down the rabbit hole. So
Yes.
Perplexity, Wikipedia, is a great one, especially for star stuff. I love Wikipedia because there are so many terms I've never heard of. And so when they start talking about um, a spectroscopic binary, I'm like, shoot, I don't know what a spectroscopic binary is. Click, go into that, and then they're like, oh, well, this particular star is off the main sequence. I'm like, what the heck's the main sequence? Click, go into that. And so I find myself several layers deep in a wiki walk. And then YouTube, like when I wanted to learn what RAG was,
Mm.
I just went to YouTube and just started looking for RAG videos, and I'll watch at least a little bit of 6 or 7 videos before I finally find the one that is like, it's speaking my language. It's giving me the level of detail I want. It's not too boring. It's, I can, whatever works for me. So I used RAG, and then I really try to create some sort of a little project with things when it comes to work related or career related things, because I want to have some hands-on experience. Like, I know what RAG is, and I get the idea of fine-tuning a model, but I've never fine-tuned a model. I have built a little RAG prototype, and it was fun, and challenging. Um, but I really, so yeah, YouTube is for where I probably start with most things, because everybody's thrown up a little tutorial about something.
Yeah, true, true. How do you stop yourself from going too deep into the rabbit hole?
Uh,
The selfish question.
yeah, self-awareness is so hard to when I'm like, uh, am I, do I need to keep pushing to like get through this, or do I need to pull back because I'm out over my skis right now? It's usually that. Like, I usually like go and go, and then eventually I start to feel like this is not fun. Like, there's productive struggle, and then there's just struggle.
Mm,
And sometimes I will find myself like right now, with related to the computer vision for the cat thing. The computer vision for the cat thing, no problem. That's a solved problem. People have pre-trained models for that sort of thing. What I don't know how to do is hardware. I have never done anything with hardware. I don't know how to get my device to trigger a relay, which I've just learned is a thing. And I have watched several videos to try and figure out what they are. Note, videos about hardware, good videos about hardware that are easy to understand, are tough to come by. That's been my experience. And then how do you get that relay to trigger a valve that has a hose screwed onto the back of it, for
mm,
example? Like, um, I go down that rabbit hole every now and then because I just have this wild hair and I want to figure it out. But I keep going and trying to learn, and I just kind of hit a wall where I'm like, this is not because I'm tired. It's because this is a bridge too far for me to understand. I gotta find something that's a little closer, or maybe I just need a nap, or I'm too busy this week. It's fine. Like, no pressure. Just, and so I really value just in time learning and like pushing myself, but not until it becomes drudgery, because then I don't want to do it anymore. And then I've really lost the fight, because I'm just going to give up. I'm like, yeah, screw that. I'm tired of that. I burned out on it. And I don't want to burn out on it. I want to figure it out.
yeah, yeah. Do you have any recommendations for folks that may be coming from a non-traditional background and want to make their way into the data field?
Sure. Let's see here. Look for projects where you are right now. For me, I was several years into my career, so that's more the perspective I have. I don't have a perspective of somebody who's like fresh out of school and trying to get into data. So I don't think I have much to say that would be very helpful for somebody like that. But somebody who has a few years of work experience or is in a current job, look for those opportunities, ask for those opportunities. If you don't see one right now, that's okay. It's not a race. um, like things like uh, making that little route optimizer thing that I made, um, or trying to find ways to streamline a data pipeline, or I had a job where I was in charge of a team that we cast gold and silver rings every day. That was our job, and casting is a complicated and error prone or fraught process, and so we tracked if if you have a bad cast, you get a lot of holes in your gold and in your silver. And so we tracked every day. We counted how many holes are in each ring, or how many holes did people have, and what kind of metal was it. And I just had a spreadsheet where I was just tracking it every single day. And then we would get together and we would say, what settings were we using? How many holes did we have? And we would just use that to create process improvement. So what I'm trying to say is, if you are in any way involved in a process, use data to make it better. And if you're not involved in a process, make a process, because you probably are involved in a process and it's not written down. Shoot. Or documentation and data governance is dope. And so that's a big thing. If you work with Salesforce in any capacity, treasure trove. Build a dashboard. Salesforce makes dashboarding so easy. And so that's an easy way to surface stuff for like a sales team or anything like that. So the projects are there. We just kind of have to learn to see them. And especially like now, especially with the brainstorming power of generative AI, you can literally like say like, I use this tool, this tool, this tool, and this tool. I work in this field. I'm I don't know, fill in the blank job that you do. Are there any kind of like data analytics projects that I could do? And stuff will come up.
Yeah.
Find those projects and then figure out, do them, stick with them, do them. That's important. Uh, and if you make any code with it, put it on GitHub. That's a big suggestion. I love GitHub. I'm very proud of my GitHub. It's not a model GitHub by any means, but I do have things in there that I feel really confident sharing with people who would make a decision about whether or not to hire me. And so I think that's really important. A good example is like I did an analysis of 538's ultimate Halloween candy power ranking. So candy, it doesn't need to be a serious project. And I actually did that one in R, which I don't really remember any R, but at the time I did. And it was really simple. I just took the data that they provided and I basically did hypothesis testing of different things to answer different questions. Like, is there a significant difference in average price for the candies that are ranked high and ranked low? Or I did some clustering on it and PCA, just like some things that I wanted to learn and understand. And then, this is the most important part, I wrote up like a whole article about it, and it is the README file with pictures. It's the README file in my GitHub. And so anybody can go there, and if they want, they can go and they can look through the t-tests. But if they don't want to, they can go and see that chocolate and peanut butter are, and it's not even close, the superior Halloween candy. So yeah, that's my biggest piece of advice is do projects. My second biggest piece of advice is post about it on LinkedIn. Post about lots of things on LinkedIn. Be active, comment, be a nice member of the community. I like nice people. Nice people like nice people.
Yes, true. Well, do you have any final thoughts or words of encouragement?
You got this. Final thoughts or words of encouragement. I do stand by you got this. Another thing that I am trying to convince myself of on a regular basis, I know it's true, but I just have to like get it ingrained in there, is that there is time. Stuff takes time. If you want to like learn it well and do well, done is better than perfect. but don't beat yourself up if it's not done today. It might take some time because we've got a lot going on in our lives, and it's perfectly fine if something that you thought would be done quickly takes a little longer. It's a side project. Your company strategy is not riding on it, and your ability to pay your rent or mortgage or buy groceries is hopefully not riding on it. And so I really think it's important to enjoy the journey. It sounds so cliche, but it's so true. Because if you're not enjoying the journey of it, how the heck do you think you're going to enjoy it when it's every day for as long as you want to stick with it for, hopefully years, once you're doing it for your job professionally. So yeah. And if you are doing it for your job professionally, words of encouragement, be excellent to each other.
I love
Party on, dudes.
that. Well, thank you so very much, Eric, for coming on the show. If any of the audience members have any questions for you, where can they find and or follow you?
Yeah, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. That's the best place. You can also go to GitHub. My GitHub is Eric Postmaster. The E, the P, and the M are all capitalized. Um, and yeah, LinkedIn. I'm like Eric Sims 2. I don't know who Eric Sims 1 is. You better be cool. He's probably a professor at Notre Dame who's like the department head of economics. I can't get on page 1 of Google because of that schmuck, but that's okay. I'm sure he's a great guy. Good for him. Anyway, yeah, LinkedIn. And if you want to like shoot me a message or anything like that, you can. I don't have my messages are open on LinkedIn, so you can message me without even sending me a connection request or whatever. It's cool.
Amazing. Well, thank you so very much again. And as always, folks, happy learning.
Peace.